The next step, once you've identified the two extremes, is to help the clients identify a more balanced middle thought. What's something in between those two extremes? And so, example, that might be, well, maybe I am still a tad pleasantly plump, but I am also really proud of all the weight I've lost so far, right? So you want to make sure that middle thought is believable to the client. Okay, so that's the process. Thought, opposite, middle. But I just want to make a few more points about this process. So one point is there is no single correct middle thought. Remember, the whole idea here is to be dialectical and to think about things from different perspectives. So it's perfectly possible and maybe even advisable to have multiple middle thoughts. Another point to keep in mind here is that having the middle thought does not instantly or automatically cancel out the original thought. However, at the very least, the original thought now has some competition. Another point I want to reiterate here is notice we have just helped a client plant a new thought in their minds without confronting, correcting, challenging, refuting, disputing the original thought. And we did this simply by identifying the original thought, identifying the opposite extreme, and identifying something more in the middle. That's all we did. And another point I want you to keep in mind is that the client's middle thought is not always going to be as close to dead center as you would like. That's okay. Because remember, any middle thought the client comes up with is already dialectical, since it is a different perspective than the original thought. Remember, the whole point of this exercise is to help the client become more dialectical, not necessarily to think and believe everything that you think and believe, or not everything that you think the client should think and believe. Simply to introduce another perspective here.